I love Georges Seurat's small studies. They're often tiny, and he did tons of them as he was preparing his paintings. And they also tell us a lot about Seurat's way of thinking, not just about art, but about the way the world should be organized. In the 1870s and 1880s, a group of painters in Paris developed a style that would come to be known as Impressionism. They made a name for themselves by turning away from the kind of studio-bound painting of traditional subjects that was promoted by the Académie des Beaux-Arts, the French Academy of Painting. They painted in plein air, in the open air, and they were interested in capturing the effects of light, of atmosphere, of the hustle and bustle of the cities and the calmness of the countryside. When Seurat came along in the early 1880s, he was fascinated by Impressionist painting and he learned a lot of its lessons, but he was also interested in the ways that he could figure out to systematize what the Impressionists were doing. If Impressionism was all about the brushwork and the temperament of the artist, as many believed, he wanted to make painting that was available to everyone, a painting style that anyone could do. He invented Pointillism, whereby he took paint, he took a color, broke it down into its components, and created forms by placing dots of paint, dot, dot, dots, so that the color would mix in your eye. You would get the same sort of optical effects, a kind of shimmering of the surface. Seurat had a kind of utopian idea behind his form of painting. In the same way that a worker in a factory doesn't need to know how to build a whole car, right? They only have to know how to tighten a certain bolt or apply paint to a certain fender, and the car comes out at the end through this process of mechanization. Seurat was creating painting as a form of mechanization. If you look closely at these studies that Seurat did in the 1880s, you'll find that many of them are very similar in subject matter to what the Impressionists were painting. Fancy people out in the parks and in and around Paris, taking their Sunday afternoon strolls. But Seurat was as interested in painting the factory workers on their days off or the shop girls on their days off. He understood the city to be a mix of classes, of people of different economic means, people of different social orders. So committed was Seurat to thinking about his painting as a form of labor that was not that much different to factory labor, that when he priced his paintings, he would actually think of how long it took him to make a painting, multiply that by the wage that a worker would earn doing any sort of job in Paris, and that's how he came up with the price of his painting. What he was saying back then is, I'm a worker, and as such, my work should be valued just as all of this other kind of work is valued. We should value work for being work.